I just want to welcome everybody to second semester officially. This is your first class period, I guess, of semester 2. So I just want to say welcome. I hope that 2021 has better surprises for us in store than 2020 did. Hopefully with a vaccine on the horizon and all of that, we can maybe start to normalize. But we'll make the best of it, right? We'll do our best that we can. Seniors, this is your last semester of high school, so I hope that it goes smoothly. I know it's not what you expected, and everybody says that, but I'm acknowledging it. I know that that's tough, but we're gonna still try to get some things, some special senior things in there and that kind of thing as we get toward the end of the term. But hopefully this semester is a little bit easier in some ways because we've already had one semester under our belt with this distance learning, and I think people are starting to get the hang of it. I know I'm doing a little bit better with it and all of that good stuff. We're from home again this week. I guess I can move over to the updates. If you go to Classroom, under the classwork, I just put a little tab here because you don't have access to Blackboard until the 18th. I don't think. And I can't change that. That's a setting that STC puts on Blackboard. So I wanted to use today to orient you to the new term, kind of talk a little bit about how this course is different from the course that we had in the fall, and get you started on the first reading that we're going to be doing in the course. There are some people who will be having schedule changes. They announced yesterday that they're going to delay the change to the new schedule until next Monday. So if you had a semester course and you are not continuing with that class, like say you're switching out for another semester class, then that will go into effect on Monday because they still don't have all of the systems online from what they're calling the breach. That sounds like a horror movie, The Breach. Dun, dun, dun. But yeah, so they're trying to work on the systems. They've told us 3 different times when the grade book was going to be up and running so that we could enter the remaining grades from the first semester for the East grades. And all 3 of those times they did not meet that deadline. So first we were told, when we got on yesterday with Dr. Gamboa, he said, oh, the grade book should be ready. And we're all like, it's not on. Oh, it should be ready at 1 o'clock. It wasn't on. Oh, it should be ready by the end of the day. It's not on. And it's not up again this morning. So that means you guys don't have access to the portal and we don't have access to the grades, and we haven't since the Friday before Christmas break. So that, and like a week before we went on break. So right now, the deadline for teachers to turn in grades is Thursday at noon, but I think they're going to have to extend that again if they don't get the grade book up today. So, we're all just sort of in a holding pattern, waiting for the availability for us to put in grades and then therefore for you to see grades and total them out for the semester. I don't think your grade's going to be a whole lot different from the STC grade. The percentages are a little bit different in terms of weight of the different assignments, but overall, in the way that it gets calculated, because we have 6 weeks grades that get calculated for East, but I don't think it's going to be, enormously different. The course ended up with a pretty good bell curve, and I didn't have any failures first term. So I feel like that's a pretty good place. What else can I tell you about tech? I'm doing these updates here on the Google Classroom if you're just joining us. So the other thing is that they don't have the internet on at school. They're being cautious about starting that back up again because it's sort of a conduit for whatever malware. I guess it wasn't malware, it was ransomware that got into the system. They were able to pinpoint which laptop was targeted for the breach. And it was an East laptop that had been loaned to one of the elementary schools. And that's how the person or people or ransom people, I don't know what you call them, hackers, how they got in. And so they're reluctant to turn on the, entire network across the district until they're 100% sure that it's not going to cause another breach. So we were told that our data was secure, but to be cautious about giving out our personal information. So I guess I'll just pass that on to you also. So if you are hybrid and you've been going to school, I don't think too many of you have been because there's been like total 10 students at school each day. There is no Wi-Fi at school right now. So you can go to school, it's open like for people who, like if you know people who need to send their younger kids to school so they can go to work or whatever, but they won't be able to work on their stuff at school because they haven't turned on the Wi-Fi. So that's unfortunate. What else can I tell you about tech? I think that's it. Do you have questions about any of that tech stuff that's going on right now that I haven't touched on? You can put them in the chat or you can unmute. All right, I think I talked also about, oh wait, there's some stuff in chat, hold on. I can't keep the chat. I guess I could over here in the corner. It just starts to cover up all my stuff that I'm looking at. Okay, I can close this. Schedules, I think I mentioned this before, but I'll say it again. If you have a semester, if you have year-long courses, then you don't have to worry about it. But if you have semester courses, they're putting that to start on Monday. So this week you should just continue going to your schedule as you did before Christmas break. They're not delaying school, they're just delaying the beginning of the second semester. Now I'm not, because I looked at what STC has in their new course core. I'll talk about that in a few minutes. And this is going to be an ambitious semester. I'm here for it. I'm going to help you through it. We're going to up our class meeting times where I'm available to go over material, answer questions, talk about stuff, and I'll talk about the plan for that in just a minute. But I don't think it would help us in the long run if we waited until the 18th when STC starts, or if we waited until next week to start, because there's just a lot of material. This is the book for this term. Let me show you. This is the book for this term. It weighs 72 pounds. But you don't have to get this book. I'm going to talk about that in a minute. I don't know if I should say this on the recording, but I found PDFs of the previous edition of this book. So we may be able to survive with just PDFs. You can certainly go and get one of these books if you need a doorstop in your house or something to weigh down some pressed flowers. I don't know. But this is a hefty thing. Now we're not going to be reading the whole book, but I do have the list that STC put out, and I can adjust that slightly. But you're going to be reading, anywhere from 50 to 80 pages a week for this course. So the reason I say that is because, if you're continuing on with the 23-21 course, we're going to be meeting more frequently. If you are not continuing on with the 23-21 course, you can show up for attendance. I think there's 2 people who aren't taking this course. Some people don't need it for their degree plan, and some people are graduating early. I did not know that they were doing that, but I guess they were contacting some students and telling them, look, you have all the credits at the end of December. If you just want to finish, we'll just, close out your transcript and you can move on and start taking college classes in the spring. I guess they were contacting some people to do that. So yeah, so some people don't need this course and some people do for their degree plan. I'm getting ahead of myself talking about the book and all All right. I'm done with updates. Are there any updates that you guys have? Anything that you want to talk about or address, or you want me to talk about that I didn't put on the updates? Update my cat sitting down here on his little towel down there. Here he is. I'll show you. Hey, Pep. Can you see him? I probably don't care. All right. Let's move on to the lesson then and go through the expectations for the course. And what I did was, if you click right here on this link, it should take you to the website that I created for the class. I had to do something to localize all of the information and the material that we need to do to start the class, because you don't have access to Blackboard for a couple of weeks. So what I did was, let me pin my picture up here. I don't need to narrate this, I know. What I did was I went ahead and I made a website just for these first 3 weeks until we can get on Blackboard and everybody's good to go on that system. Because I feel like it'd be easier for everything to be in one place and all of your assignments to be laid out for you and all the links and things that you need. And you know, I could have done it in Google Classroom, but then it's kind of like in pieces and parts, and so I just did the website. In any case, I want to spend some time going through what you have here, how it works, and talk about the new course, the British Literature course that we're embarking on this term. So you'll see that I put in some key links right here in this little toolbar. Hopefully, is there anybody having trouble accessing the website? You should be able to click on it. Let me know if you're having trouble. I don't think that it's 100% legal. Maybe I'll just pretend that I didn't know that. But there is a PDF of the 8th edition of that big textbook I was showing you. That's the 9th edition, and you can certainly go to school. I've already informed them that if you wanted to return your books from the first semester and pick up, like if you just like having a physical book, since you can put Post-its or whatever, then you can go and pick them up. I informed them yesterday that, you know, to make that book available. But there is a PDF version of the textbook. It's not like super awesome. I would recommend downloading it to your computer, because if you access it online all the time, it's gonna always be lagging, because it's like, I don't know, 1,000 pages, 3,000 pages. So you can scroll through this, and then you can also navigate, you know, by knowing what pages. I will give you page numbers for these first 3 weeks based on this PDF. So I say just download it to your computer, and then that way it will load faster and, you know, be easier, slightly easier to navigate. But it is set up, you know, just in scrolling fashion. You can use the little elevator to get to the pages that you need. So this is the book. It's just like the previous version of the book that we're supposed to have. So it's still in print and all that stuff. So if this is cool for you and you can work with a PDF to do the readings this term, that's pretty much all you need. I wouldn't normally do that if we were meeting face to face, but in the virtual space, I just wanted to make that available to you. And that way, maybe it's slightly easier for us as we go through the term to have that and not have to worry about the book. But anyway, oops, I need to close that. So there's a link right here to that. And then also there's a course calendar. Let me talk about that a little bit. So what happened was, let me tell you a little bit of a backstory. When STC decided that they were going to go virtual 100% for the fall of 2020, they had all of the instructors do this extensive training on Blackboard, and we had to develop the whole course. It had to get approved by 3 different groups of people at STC, the content, the availability, the way that it shows up on Blackboard, all that stuff had to get approved. So we spent pretty much the whole summer, all day, working on creating those based on the requirements of the course that are laid out by the English department. And then about 2 weeks before classes started, the English department said, oh, we have this version of the course that you can use if you want. Well, I had already spent all that time in the summer creating my course, which is the one that you went through in the fall. So they gave us the option. You can do the one that you created in the summer, or you can do this one that we created and just follow the departmental structure. I looked at the departmental one and I felt that it was lacking. I didn't think that it had as much material and as much depth, as it wasn't built out as much as the course that I had created. So I went ahead with my course. Well, then I had my evaluation in December and they criticized me for using my course and not the departmental one. I justified myself and explained it to the department chair and all that stuff. But they said next semester you need to use the departmental one, which they still didn't have ready in December. So that came online the second week of December, and I started looking it over. And the reading list is huge. And so I started to think, okay, well, for me, I need to put things into a structure. And so I put it into a calendar. And I tried to see how long it would take us to do all the material that we need to go through in the course. So this is the calendar that I'm sharing the whole thing with you here for the term, so that you can see what I'm going to go over on each day that class meets. We will be having a Zoom meeting, or I'll be holding a Zoom meeting every day possible to help you through this material. STC set up this course for you to do it completely by yourself without, lectures, without me coming in and discussing it with you and so on and so forth. I think that's going to be a huge challenge because we're reading ancient material in some cases. So I'm going to have class Tuesdays and Thursdays and every other Friday. So what I did was I just went ahead and I plunked in all of the assignments that they're requiring, when they're due, and then what I'm going to talk about on each class day. So you can kind of go through the calendar and see how that is set up. And I think there might be some adjustments. I'll probably put in some page numbers and things like that into the calendar as we get, as we start going through. You can see I already have page numbers in for the first 3 weeks here because I kind of worked on that as a chunk. But the whole semester is already figured out. I went through and I figured out what material I could eliminate from their reading list. I went and looked at the midterm, which they created. I went and looked at the final exam, which they created. And we're allowed to, change it slightly, but they want us to stick with the STC shell of the course. So I already went through, spent my Christmas break kind of going through and figuring out what could be eliminated from the extensive reading list based on like what's not on the exam and stuff like that. And I pared it down to what you see on this calendar. So is it going to be necessary for you to come to all of the Zoom meetings? I mean, I don't know. I don't make a big deal about that because I record them all. And I'm assuming that if you miss a class period, you go and watch the video of that class period. But there will be a lot more lecturing, a lot more me going over material this term, just because there's so much of it, and so much of it is very, very old and difficult to read. So, I don't know that you need to come to class. Maybe what you could do is look on the calendar and say, oh, on Thursday, she's going to be going over Beowulf, these pages. Let me read that. And if I'm okay with it, then I'm okay. If I'm not okay, then I'll show up and hear her talk about those pages or discuss them or ask questions or whatever we're going to do during that time. But every class period that I'm going to hold, I've already put in what the topic of discussion will be on that day. Hopefully that makes sense. Let me go to, I don't have the syllabus either. They don't even have the syllabus up for us to customize yet for the term. I'm assuming that they're going to do that a couple of days before the term starts, but I don't even have a syllabus that I can manipulate to give to you. So I just put all that stuff on the website. So let me kind of go back to the website. You can access the calendar here with this link anytime. And I will be adjusting it. So if I feel like I need to take something else out, or if I need to put in some page numbers or something, you'll see the updated one whenever you click on this one. And then the other thing over here is the lecture playlist. So if you need to go back and rewatch a class period where I was going over Beowulf or whatever we were reading, Paradise Lost, then you can just click on 1B right here and it will take you to the YouTube playlist where you can see all the different class periods there. Why don't you click up here where it says adjustments. I made a web page within the site here that talks about how this course is going to be different from the course in the first semester. And I want to go through that with you because I think it's a good time on the first day to just shift and explain how things are going to be different. The first thing that I put in there is that this course is British literature. The course first semester was forms of literature. So that's why we studied short fiction, poetry, drama. This semester is all of British literature throughout history from the very beginnings of the English language to now. So we have a lot of time that we have to cover, and it is a chronological structure. So instead of organizing by genre, we're going to be structuring by time period. And I already talked about the book. You'll see little links to the PDF kind of all over the place just so that it's easy for you to access. This is what the cover of the book looks like, so that if you do decide to go and get a physical text from school, you will make sure that you get the right one. There were some problems in my AP class where they gave them all the wrong books and they had to all go back in. Or some of them got the right one, or I don't know. But that's what it looks like in case you do want a physical book. I've already mentioned that the reading list is extremely ambitious. You can click right here. Let me just show it to you. I'm going to talk about these course details in a minute. But here is the list of semester reading materials. This is the complete list that they gave me for the course. But like I said, I'm going to be amending it to fit for time. So this is the list of all the things that we'll be reading, and then we'll have the midterm, which is the week before spring break. So all this stuff is from now until the beginning of right before spring break. Then after spring break, we start the romantic period, and then this is all of the stuff that we're going to be reading. In here, you know, it is a lot of period nonfiction and poetry, a complete play, a complete novel. So, you know, it's pretty extensive. That's why, hopefully looking at that, you can see why I wanted to put it on a calendar so that I could start plotting out what would fit, what we would have time, what's logical time period to read all of this stuff. So because the reading list is extensive, most of your study time will be reading. And so I tried to take that into consideration when I was making the calendar, so that I broke it up in a way that hopefully you'll have enough time between class periods to read the next thing that I'll be discussing at the next class meeting. I think that so the question is, if you come to class but haven't read what's being discussed on that day. For example, you know, this Thursday, I'm going to talk about pages 72 to 94 of Beowulf. So you need to read all that before Thursday. Could you come to class and hear me talk about it and you haven't read it? Yeah, I don't know how much of it's going to make sense to you. I mean, that's kind of up to you. But the expectation is that you would come to class on Thursday already having read that. Then you would come on Tuesday already having read 104 to 112, 123 to 143, because I'm going to talk about those pages. So, you know, I'm not going to be able to tell whether you read it or not, but I don't know how helpful me lecturing over the reading or holding a discussion over the topics will be to you if you haven't read. So that's why I tried to break it up. Let me see. Also, probably you're interested in talking about the assignment, so let me talk about that a little bit. There will be a formal syllabus when it's available to me. I didn't want to come in and not have the basics about the course for you. So this is not replacing the syllabus. This is just interim. So there will be 12 discussions. Now, when they say discussions, they mean on the discussion board in Blackboard. And these discussions are the foundation for your grade. There are 12 of them through the course of the semester. spread out, one per week, and then there's a couple times where there isn't one in a week. There will be 2 analytical papers, a shorter one and then a longer one midterm and one final. So that's it for the grades. The same grades will go into the East grade book whenever they happen. So if you look on the calendar, I did put all these due dates for these discussions on here, they're in pink. So discussion 1 is not due until the 22nd, and I'm going to prepare you for that. That discussion, but what you'll do is you'll go in and you'll write, I think it's at least 500-word response to the topic, and then you'll have to respond to 3 classmates with at least 150-word responses. Each discussion is like that, and then that's how they'll be graded. So the discussions, there are 12 of them, and that's a significant chunk of your grade. So really a lot of the Zoom stuff that we'll be doing will be preparing you to understand the material well enough to do that discussion. I already talked about attendance. Okay, so formatives. First semester, here's another difference. First semester, I had you do a formative every day, whether you were in class or not. In order to make sure that you have enough time to do your readings, I've eliminated that, and you will only need to do your formative on the days if you don't come to class. So if it's a class day, like a Tuesday or a Thursday, and you don't make it to class, then you'll have to go and do the formative so that I can give you attendance credit for East. If you come to class, then I'm just going to mark you present and you don't need to do a formative. So there's not going to be a daily rotating different topic in the formative because we're meeting every class day this term. So if you're here, I'm just going to mark you present. If you're not here, you'll have to go to formative so that I can mark you present. And the question will always be the same every day for the formative for the absent people. And it's just going to be basically, what questions do you have about today's reading? Because if you weren't in class, then you didn't hear me talk about that material for 45 minutes or an hour, or answer questions and make sure everybody's clear. So I want to make sure that there's a communication line. And if you weren't here, there's a way for you to ask me questions. So you'll need to formulate a question about the reading material, and then I'll respond to you so that you can clear up anything about that material that you might have questions about. So that's always going to be the formative question this term, and it's only for people who weren't in class. So hopefully that makes sense to you. I know that's a shift, but hopefully that will also give you more time to work on your reading, because that's where you'll be spending most of your time this term. So those are the main differences in the course. Are there any questions about any of those differences? Are those adjustments? Okay, go to this other link up here, course details. So this is kind of like a pseudo syllabus that I want to go through and explain to you how the course works generally. When the syllabus is available, of course, on that day, I'll bring it to you. Probably be the week of the 18th. So this is the course description as outlined by STC. This is going to be a survey. Survey means that we're not going in depth. In many cases, you will see that we're only reading chapter 1 and chapter 2 of a 12-page thing, or here is a longer work like the Canterbury Tales. We're reading the prologue and these 2 tales out of 25 tales. So we might be just reading part 1 of this longer piece of fiction and part 4. So it's a survey, meaning that we're kind of skipping through all these time periods. We're not going in depth into the Renaissance. We're just making sure that we understand all of the different time periods. From Anglo-Saxon period to present, students will study works of prose, poetry, drama, and fiction in relation to their historical, linguistic, and cultural contexts. So next class period, I will share with you a chart that I've created where you can start to keep track of that. You'll have to know the difference between the time periods. You'll need to be able to identify a work and place it in a time period and based on its qualities. So we'll be studying that as we go through as we go through time. We're many time travelers this term. Text will be selected from a diverse group of authors and traditions. I don't think that's necessarily true. I know it says that, but based on the reading list that they gave us, there's a whole lot of dead white guys. And that's okay. I mean, classical literature is important, but I don't think it's the most diverse list that I've ever seen in my lifetime. But not a lot of people, not a lot of women or people of diverse backgrounds were published in some time periods. 12 discussion interactions, 2 essays, and midterm. I already talked about that. All right, so the courses arranged chronologically. There are 6 main periods that they have identified as the focus. So there are 6 of them for a 15-week course, which is, you know, roughly 2.5 weeks per time period. That's not a lot. So I tried to sort of reduce and just give you the flavor of the time period. So we'll talk about the works, and then we'll talk about what people were thinking at the time when they were writing these sorts of works, and you know how this fits in historically and linguistically with the growth of the English language. But these are the 6 periods: the Anglo-Saxon and the Middle Ages, the 16th and 17th centuries, Restoration and 18th century, the Romantic period, the Victorian era, and the 20th century and modernism. Now, I find it interesting that they say in the course description to the present, because the last thing they have you read is something that was written in 1950. But I'm going to add to that a little bit because I feel like some things have happened in the last, 70 years, and they say beyond, but yeah. So then there's some core guiding questions. What are the main characteristics of literature during this period? So we need to be able to apply each one of these 4 to each one of these 6 periods. So in every period, we want to focus on these 4 things. What are the main characteristics of literature during this period? Who are the significant authors? In what ways does the literature of the period show the evolution of the English language? And how does literature of this period reflect the historical time and culture? So I put these here because they're kind of handy. We'll apply A, B, C, and D to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Hopefully that makes sense. That sounded like a math problem, but you have to have you don't have to have passed 2341 to take 2321, but nobody failed first semester. So grade distribution, you might be interested in that. That's usually a focus on the syllabus that people want to know. Discussions, those 12 discussions are going to be 20% of your grade. That is equal to the midterm or the final. So the discussions are important, and I will, if you look on the calendar, I've set it into the calendar already for us to discuss the topic for that discussion before you have to write on it. So I've set them up so that the discussions are due after you've read the material that the discussion will be asking for, but I'll introduce you to the topic for the discussion ahead of time. And I'll kind of like break it down for you, and we can discuss a little bit, and you can ask questions before you have to go in and do that 500-word discussion and respond to other people, because it's just a significant part of the grade. The essays are 15% and 25%, and then each of the 2 exams will be 20%. They always make us put these outcomes in there, which are basically about, reading well, writing well, explaining what you're reading in a coherent way. And then you have the reading list. I just copy pasted this from the Blackboard where they had the list there, so that you can see all of the things that they are requesting that we read. But like I said, I'm going to make some adjustments here and there to ease the schedule a little bit. And I'm already privy to what's on the exams. So if it's not on the exam, that was my first criteria for kind of cutting it or reducing it. And I mean, so I think that makes sense. And then anything else that they have on the exam that we didn't read, I'll go and adjust on the exam before you take it, but either the midterm or the final. But are there any questions about that? I know this is a lot on the first day back. but hopefully you can see why I decided that we needed to start right away. They have 2 weeks less to read all that stuff. I feel like it's a better spread if we could start it this week, and then that way, you know, maybe the reading's a little more doable throughout the term. All right, so I don't see any questions or anything in the chats. All right, if you go back to the home, you'll see that I've already put in everything for the first 3 weeks. So, and I know that on one page, it just looks like it's all there, but I feel like there's no way to hide that there's going to be a lot of reading and a lot of material this term. I don't think there's any way to make that nicer or prettier or softer. The only way I can do that is to be here for you and help you through your reading and discuss it with you as you're reading it. And so that's why I've upped the class meeting so that I can come in and talk about that section of the reading. It's really the only way that I can think of that would be beneficial to you, because if I take too much out of the reading list, then you can't pass the exam because you haven't read that material, or you can't do the discussion questions that they're requiring of you. So yeah, I know it looks like a lot. So if you look on the weeks here, this is for this week. I'll actually start lecturing on material for the course on Thursday. So on Thursday, I'm going to talk about the characters in Beowulf. Beowulf is the oldest, longer work that we have in anything that could be called English. You can't recognize it as English when you look at it. And I have a PowerPoint that I was going to go over today, but I think I'll just have to end up making a video because I guess I talked too long about the course. But I want you to orient yourself to the characters. Here is a character list. It's so old. I mean, Beowulf was probably written down in about 700, the year 700. It was probably a story that was a few hundred years old by the time that it was written down. So it predates language, or the English language. They didn't have a language to write it down, and then finally they could tell it to people who could write it down in Latin, in this Anglo-Saxon Latin hybrid. So here's a list of the characters. You can see that their names are really strange and hard to pronounce. So before you start reading, I just want you to kind of look through this list and kind of familiarize yourself with the pronunciation of the characters. I did make a video where I'll go through and pronounce the main characters, which are the ones in yellow. So you can click on that up here. It will take you to a YouTube video where I just sort of pronounce them for you. Because when you run into a name like, you know, this one, Edgetheo is how you say that. But if you don't know how to say that, you wouldn't just go through life knowing how to say that. So when you're reading, you're going to put whatever pronunciation, you're going to say, you know, whatever you're going to say in your head while you're reading. And then when I start talking about it on Thursday and I mention that character, it's not going to register who that character is to you because you pronounced it in your head a different way. So before you start reading, it would be good to go through and just familiarize yourself with these characters. I put the pronunciations over here to help you, but then there's also that video for those main characters that I'll be talking about quite a bit. So that's the first thing I want you to do for Thursday. And then the other thing that you need to do is read pretty much the first half of what they're requiring that you read of Beowulf. They're taking out a little bit in the middle of Beowulf, and I'll summarize that for you next Tuesday. But you need to read the beginning part of Beowulf, which starts on page 72 in the PDF. So let me just show you. Like I said, it's good. It'd be better if you download this because I noticed every time I open it fresh on my computer, it's like it's going to be working to open all those thousands of pages. So I like to go to the little slider over here. What page did I say? 72, right? Yeah, 72. So I like to go to the little slider and then I will just watch the pages at the bottom until I can get pretty close. And then I'll just go back to whatever page it is. I think if I use the one that was on my computer, it would be faster. That's what I'm saying. 72. Was it paying attention? So there's about 3 pages of introductory material before Beowulf. This is where they're talking about the linguistics of Old English. 72 starts Beowulf. So this is all background material. And ecclesiastical history, Dream of the Rood, is on the reading list, but I took it off. Okay, so 72 starts right here. And so if you go to page 72 in the PDF, that's where the reading assignment for Thursday begins. So there are a few pages of background material. If you're a type of person who wants to annotate, but you don't want to get the textbook, you can use a web application called Kami, K-A-M-I. It's a Chrome extension. You can, let me show you how it works. I use it here. So if you're more of an annotation person, you can get an add-on that will let you do that. You know, just in case when you're going over your material for the midterm, or you're going over things when you're getting ready to write your discussion, if you have notes, then you can, it's going to take a long time to load because of the length of the PDF. Maybe I should chop that PDF up a little bit. Anyway, Kami has tools like text boxes and highlighters and stuff like that, where you could go in and manipulate the actual PDF that you're presented with. So it's kind of loading here. I'll just show you real quick. On a shorter PDF, it doesn't take this long to load, but so you can see that you have tools over here where you can add text boxes and shapes, and you can, you know, add stuff like that. You can mark it up with different pens. So, you know, if you feel like you want to mess with that virtually, then you can. I'm not going to be checking any of that stuff. If you can do well in the discussions and pass the exams and do your papers, that's what I'm grading. But if you're one of those people that likes to mark up text, then that might be a tool for you. It's just going to take forever to load. I'm sorry. But you can keep it loaded into Kami, keep that tab open, and then go back to it whenever you had a reading assignment. In any case, so then here is the background that I want you to read about Beowulf. It's just a few pages, a little bit about the names, and then here starts the epic poem. Beowulf is an epic poem, and that means that it is a long poem about the heroes of the adventures of a hero. So this is a translation version. You could not read the original version because Anglo-Saxon, or what they used to call Old English, is such an old language that it's unrecognizable to us pretty much. The video that the material I was going to go through to preview this, I think I'm just going to make a video and make that available to you later today, because I don't want to take up a whole nother hour going over that PowerPoint, but I will do it for you and make a video so that you can get a little background on the Anglo-Saxon time period. And also I'll go over some maps and explain to you who the Anglo-Saxons were and why they're significant to the beginning and the origins of the English language. But this is where the poem starts. So you're going to read from this page, read the background material, and then read from that page to page 94 in the actual epic poem. That's what I'm going to talk about on Thursday. All right. So all that is laid out for you here on the website. I tried to make this as intuitive and clear as possible for you. That plus the calendar, I think, is, like your two main tools right now. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and add on here. You'll see later today that I will add the video. I was gonna go over, I don't have the link handy here, but I was gonna go over some background material, and I'll just make that available to you in a video. I'm gonna try to make it maybe around 15 minutes. Probably if I was doing it live in class, it would take me like 45 minutes because I'm kind of a chatterbox. But anyway, so I want to finish up and say that I think that it's going to be a rewarding semester. I'm going to try to make it be as helpful to you as possible as we go through the material. So please feel free to contact me if things are getting overwhelming for you, if you're not understanding something. On the first page of the Google Classroom, I have all of the contact information. You can text me at this Google Voice number anytime you want. I mean, like if it's 2 in the morning, I'm probably not gonna see it until the morning, but I will respond to you in text. So if you wanna do that, you can email me certainly, anything like that in case there's something that I need to know, or if there's some way that I can be of assistance to you. Hopefully, with our increased class periods and the reduction of the formatives, you'll have enough time to read through all the material for the week in the course. So before I sign off, are there any questions? Maybe something I didn't anticipate that you want to ask me about? Everybody's good? Okay. I'm really looking forward to this term. We're going to read some really amazing literature. We're going to read Paradise Lost. We're going to read Othello. We're going to read, so many iconic poems. And I'm really looking forward to going through all that stuff with you guys. So, all right. I'm going to turn this into a video. And then I think right now I have enough time to go and make that other video that I was talking about for the background on Anglo-Saxons. So that should be available to you on the website a little later today. If there aren't any other questions, then I welcome you to this new term, and I will see you again on Thursday. All right, bye.